welcome everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Mark.
Hey guys,
Thank you for coming to the
we're going to have to pass this back and forth.
We're
Don't
here to
hold it up
discuss
here.
the
Hold it up here.
great structure of the building. I would informational.
Is it on now?
Answer questions. The movement, why we important students to the committee, but it's not necessarily a debate about it. It's an informational discussion. Happy to answer questions. So with that being said, I'll move over. That starts with the presentation.
Thank you all. Can you guys hear me in the back? Thank you all for coming. We're going to tag team this presentation and we're going to walk through it. I get annoyed when I go to a PowerPoint and somebody reads me the slide, so I've asked all of them not to read the slides to you. We'll give you a summary. I have confidence that you've all learned how to read. We will have this posted if it's not already on the school website, so you'll be able to see it there. Martha, I'm just going to ask you, we can't see you, but can you just unmute and tell us if you can hear us okay in TV land?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
Okay, and again, we can't see the TV audience, so if somebody raises their hand for a question out there in TV land, you're going to have to chime in and let us know that somebody wants to speak. So
Yeah.
I am, okay, thanks. So, see if I can figure out how to do this. And that doesn't work. And that doesn't work. Who's my technology?
Generally the down arrow.
Technology whiz.
Rick, I did just get a message that people are having a hard time joining.
See, I'm down at 10 hours, not going anywhere.
Martha, we got a message that people are having a hard time joining. I don't know if you're just constantly going to the waiting room or do you see a problem out there?
Yeah, I don't see, I wonder if they got the right link. They better make sure that they take that link from the post recently. Because I'm here and I see a whole bunch of people in, staff and so forth, but I don't see anybody asking to come in.
Okay, now we're having a PowerPoint problem.
I also just have somebody that said they had trouble with their phone, but not with the computer, so that may be an issue with people signing in.
So my guess is the batteries are getting low, so I probably got to be close, so I'll sit down here. Again, we're going to tag team this, and you know, we've got questions at the end, so I would ask you to hold your questions until the end. Well, before I get started, a couple of meetings we've had, people express concern that too fast, we haven't had time, various comments like that. I went back and double checked. I haven't had a chance to look at all the details, but August 5th, the board put out a press release that requested the administration to look into this and put a plan together. It was, I'm 99% sure, in the Springfield Reporter, and it was posted on Springfield School District social media sites, I think somewhere around August 6th, 7th, 8th area. So the information's been out there. These administrators have been working hard since August. They've had other members of their team working very hard, and I've been through many meetings at all the buildings, and I know they had many more meetings that I did not attend. So this process has been, in my opinion, very well vetted, very well discussed, very well planned. is not done. There's still more work to be done, between now and next August. But we believe, and we're very confident that we have a good plan together and that this transition will go very smoothly. So that was me off script. To go back on script, it largely came out of the failed budgets last year, where the board heard numerous times that we have too much administration, too many buildings. Can you reduce the buildings? Can you reduce administration? This plan does that. We reduce one administrator. We theoretically are reducing 2 buildings. I say theoretically because we only use part of Park Street. We only use part of the tech center, but those obligations and expenses have gone away. It contributes to a very responsible budget. These reductions that we've made through this consolidation contributes to a very responsible budget. Tax rate is effectively flat. So totally different from last year. To those that are concerned about their taxes, this is helping to keep us to a relatively flat tax rate. And, there's some additional benefits. It positions the district well for future state conversations that you may have heard of over the last few months about future consolidations coming down, not only within Springfield, but with other member school districts around us. If we are already as efficient as we can be, it puts us in a very good position when we are called to those regional conversations about how to be more efficient. So, and I apologize, I can't do 2 things at once, much less one.
Do you want me to use it? Is it working? So there's 3 key priorities that have really been guiding us through this entire process. I'm going to speak to the first 2, and I'll let Rick speak to the last, because that's more on his realm. But the first one really is about maintaining and enhancing student opportunities and what that's going to look like. So let me just start with the overall structure of what we're going to see. What we're going to have is a new primary education center with our PK, kinder, and first grade. Then at Union, we'll have 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. At Riverside, we'll have 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then the high school will remain 9 through 12. Our primary education center really is going to be focused on play-based learning, and we'll get a little bit into more details later in the slideshow for that. But then our pre-Kers are really going to have a lot more opportunities, such as art, music, PE, and library. This also gives us this foundation for the lifelong learner, or the lifelong love of learning from our youngest students. And then lastly, if we look at our middle school model, our 5th graders are going to have a whole new array of opportunities, which will include tech, STEAM, music, computer science, interscholastic sports. And then we are also providing a great opportunity for voice and engagement. Our second piece is the part that I kind of live in and I love, and that is with the curriculum piece. We've been developing our curriculum from PK all the way through 12, and we've been working with our teachers, we've been working with progressions, and we've really been providing opportunities for our teachers to make learning. I'm so sorry. No, you're
Trying
good.
to see if I can log in. So
You're good, you're good.
While we're paused, Boo, I'm also getting messages that people cannot join the Zoom, and they do have the correct link. So sometimes on Zoom, if you go to the main screen, there's a login code that it shows.
We're good at IT, don't think you're good.
Check that.
Martha, is there a way to check that code?
Google Meets.
I mean, I'm in that code, I just had somebody else tell me that I need to let them in. set up to ask to join? Are people asking to join? Because I've got nobody at the top asking me to join.
Yeah, we get these, there's no Google Meets.
Messages as well, can't join. And I did recall something happened last meeting. And there was some, they didn't know what was going on, but could you just confirm, is the code
But they didn't make it. What?
AXSN
MVH.
MVH?
Are you talking for a phone or,
Well, that's the same, that's the link. Yep, that's correct.
Somebody just messaged and said they were able to get on, so hopefully people will start trickling in now.
Yep.
No, you're good. Okay, so we'll is it okay if we continue? All right. So with curriculum and developing the progressions and looking at all of the work that we have been working on, what's really great is having PK now in the building with our kinder family and having that communication back and forth with curriculum. Also having our youngest learners that are not only learning to read, but reading to learn. Having them in the same building, having those same trainings, and then finally having the overall alignment of PK-12 within the 4 buildings and seeing the progressions happening on a daily basis.
So part of what's helping, I mentioned earlier that we have a relatively flat tax rate. It's not all solely the result of the transition and the consolidation of the 2 buildings. We have made some extensive investments into energy efficient items in all the buildings over the last 4 or 5 years. Most notably, everyone has probably observed or heard or witnessed the extensive HVAC system here at the high school. And we are experienced significant savings. I think, and I apologize, I don't have the exact number with me today or in front of me, but it is in the neighborhood or exceeds basically the value of a professional FTE or a teacher. So we are saving significant money year after year after year as part of those investments that we've made into our infrastructure. And one thing that I'm going to go off script again, and the board hasn't heard this yet, but I'm putting it together in a report. A benefit to the high school with this new ventilation system, and Bindi, the principal of the high school, mentioned to me a couple weeks ago, she goes, you know something? I'm feeling better. I get the sense that we have less absenteeism. It must be the new ventilation system. I said, So we went and we did some research, and again, don't quote me on the timeline and the numbers, but I'm going to be close. We started this ventilation project in FY20, or maybe calendar year 20, but somewhere in that ballpark. And that year we had like 950 absentees. The following year, when the system was roughly 50% complete, we had 800 absentees. This last year, when it was 3/4 complete, we had about 700 absentees. So we're seeing less illness in the building. So not only are we saving money, we're saving money through less substitutes that we need, and our staff and students are healthier. So I apologize going off script on that one. And the key to it, that bottom line, I said I wasn't going to read anything to you, but reduced facility operating costs frees up valuable resources that we can invest back into the staff and the students to support them.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? This is strange. I'm Rachel Hunter. I'm the principal up at Elm Hill and also pre-K coordinator. So a little background about preschool. In 2018, it was the top initiative by the school board to bring in in-house preschool program that really looked at how to support children holistically and ensure that those students were ready for the transition to kindergarten and had a strong foundation for learning. Over time, who expected there would be a global pandemic, but we've seen a significant loss in sites. We've seen full programs close, we've seen small programs close, we've seen big ones cut down classroom sizes. So we know families are also struggling for that early education access, which impedes children getting ready for school. The other thing we've been keeping our eye on as we really focus on preschool is there was a directive from the legislature for an 18-month study on preschool and the next steps for that. That concluded just in December of 2024. The recommendation coming out of that 18-month study that is now in this legislative session was for 3-year-olds to continue with preschool at 10 hours a week and for 4-year-olds to have full day, full access, and full services. So that means access to special education regularly. That means fully licensed teachers delivering services all day long. And so with Governor Scott's address, this is being a recommendation to move full steam ahead, which really means that we have an opportunity to anticipate versus react and have ourselves in a really good place to be able to support our youngest learners. The other thing I want to share about preschool is when we think about Elm Hill now, think about it as a primary school, and that kind of helps clear things up. I can't tell you how many times people say to me, "Oh, you work at the elementary school?" So having a primary school, an elementary school, middle school, and high school really helps differentiate and understanding for the general public. And the goal really is going to be to ensure that those students can learn with developmentally appropriate practices, which means learning at what fits for their age level, their brain development, and where they're at. Being able to have some experiential learning opportunities. This means hands-on. Also, having that holistic family approach where we're working with our early multi-tiered systems of support. So not only are we supporting the child, but we're supporting the family and really helping that child get ready for the next step. And we know brains are developing rapidly at this age. By age 5, the brain is 90% hardwired. So providing opportunities for social emotional learning, resolving conflict, making friends, all those types of skills are critical to get in early when the brain is wiring. And we also know early intervention is the most effective at that younger age. And so that's why we really want to be able to have an effective and robust preschool program. So not only are we helping students be more successful, we're also ensuring that we're saving taxpayers funding because it does increase special ed costs. And honestly, it's the foundation of life. If you think of like a house, preschool is the basement. It's the foundation. You need to have a strong foundation to support those walls and help them to become a lifelong learner over the course of their school career.
Trying to explain to Nate
A little farther away.
the microphone situation. Can you guys hear me back there? Okay. David Cohen, principal, Union Street School. Structurally, this isn't a huge change for Union. It goes from grades 3, 4, 5. It shifts us down to grades 2, 3, and 4. Alina was mentioning there's this pivotal kind of moment for kids going from grade 2 to 3 where it becomes pre-K to 2 learning how to read, and then in grade 3 it's reading to learn. So having our second and third grade teachers housed in the same building I think will be beneficial. In terms of math, we have a new program called Ready Math. This is our first year of implementing that throughout our district. Ready Math breaks training into cohorts that goes grades 2 through 8. So having our second, third, and fourth grade teachers all at the same training at the same time, I think will also be beneficial. So in terms of literacy and math, those are the couple things we're looking at for Union Street School. But again, we will continue to be a school that houses 3 grade levels. That's all I got for Union Street. Thank you.
too loud into it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I kind of like one of those mics that you can hold, but I can do this. All right, Riverside. I'm Nate McNaughton. I'm over at Riverside. This is Matt Alden, is assistant principal here up here in front. And Paul Hammond from Union Street. All right. Anyways, I want to talk just a little bit about what Riverside will look like when students come up to join us. And some of you have had kids there, some of you have not. But we're really looking at, one, bringing in access to a lot of our extracurriculars. It's one of the strong points about Riverside. Well, one thing that I know I'm super proud about the experiences the kids get up there is really through what we offer in applied learning. Kids will come up, we'll have a kind of a similar middle school structure, 4-person core classes, special educator, para support for the team level. We'll be looking at 50-minute classes. One of the things that I was able to do today was, and actually I have pictures up there that I just added, was I got to meet with a bunch of kids who volunteered to kind of give me feedback on the plan for next year for Riverside. And it was actually really enlightening. I know one of the things I've heard at board meetings, and I think, Ray, you've talked about it quite a bit, is that worry about when are fifth graders mixed and when are they not? And so I brought that question to students today, and it was actually a fascinating conversation. One thing that I have going out to parents in 4th through 7, because those will be the parents impacted, is a newsletter sort of outlining sort of what the daily schedule look like. Where will they fit in the building? Trying to anticipate some of the questions that folks really have, and I put on their draft because some students had some really interesting points. The two that we talked about a lot were T3, which is our advisory, which has been sort of a kind of anchoring institution at Riverside, or moment for kids, which is, and kids were overwhelmingly, were like, this has to stay multi-age. It's really important. For sixth graders, they were talking about how important it was to have a few upperclassmen there as anchors that would help them, especially at the beginning of the year, figure out where classes are, figure out how to navigate things. The one where they were solidly split on was, right, the other question was, hey, what does the lunch structure look like, right? And I came to students with a lunch structure around a 5-6 lunch and a 7-8 lunch, right? Kind of hearing some of the feedback. And it was really interesting hearing kids talk about kind of the pluses and minuses of both structures. I thought they would be overwhelmingly, yes, 5-6 lunch. They weren't, which was surprising to me. But it was actually affirming hearing many of our sixth graders talk about how important some of those older students' relationships were. And yeah, they were thinking also about when, like in the hallways, where we could think about how to mitigate traffic, right? Even though it's been much better this year with the lockers gone. So this is sort of what we're looking at for Riverside. I also have sent that news, or it should be going out. I think there was a delay in it going out, so it'll go out at least by tomorrow if it hasn't hit mailboxes. So that's the structure we're looking at. I think Rich is going to talk about sports next, and then you get off one, right?
All right, when we started looking at sports here, we kind of put the question out there to ourselves, if the student is in our building, should they have access to everything that's in the building? So we have sports now at 7, 8 levels, some at 6, but for the most part, traditionally in Springfield, the sports have been done through Parks and Rec. So the first step I took was to talk to other 5 through 8 schools around the state and along the New Hampshire border, and was kind of amazed to get some information how they run their programs. And really treated a lot of 5 through 8, and the VPA considers 5 through 8 as a middle school. So we can set up some interscholastic programs. The next question was, how do we interact with Parks and Rec? Because for years they have run the 5th and 6th grade programs. So we had some very good meetings there and come to terms that we're all on the same page. So in the school, we would have interscholastic sports for these ages, and in some cases, we have several individual sports such as cross country, track, wrestling, And then we have our team sports. There's some team sports we probably wouldn't be able to offer at 5, 6, but 85%, 90% of the stuff we do have, we'll be able to offer. And we think it's important because now you can have the interscholastic sport, which would be earlier in the day, after school is when we would do everything. And then if the kids want to go and participate at Parks and Rec in a club level type sport, that opportunity is there too, so you kind of get 2 for 1 there. So we're excited about that. We worked out all those details, not totally. We are working with some schools along the river here, once you cross it, on maybe putting together a 5 through 8 league, which would be great for us. Then we're interacting with other schools. A lot of times when we're interacting with Parks and Rec programs or clubs, there isn't that main person if there's a problem to go to. With other schools, there's more discipline, and the coaches have been certified and that type of thing, which is very handy. And the last thing I'll touch on is give kids more opportunity at lower levels. There's going to be some athletes that could probably play, talking about lunch, the same idea at a little higher level, and they'll have that opportunity to try to do that. It'll be there for them, okay? We'll continue not to cut kids. We'll try to have a program for anybody. When it comes to expense, we own a lot of stuff now. So the ads, we have basketballs. We have we have soccer balls. There'll be some pieces we put together, but we think we're built in pretty good where we can just add things. The fields are there, the people are there, be some creative scheduling when it comes to gyms and like that in the wintertime that we overuse now. But that will come together, and the focus will be trying to provide something for everybody in that building. And let me just touch one more thing, is what we can see here is from 5th through 8th grade, we're going to have some continuity with the kids, that they keep coming. We'll be able to use our high school coaches better to do clinics and get down there more often to work with these younger kids and give them more skill levels. So we're excited about those pieces. We want to see a kid come in 5th grade, and when they graduate here, they've been with us that entire time. All right?
Hello, I'm Tammy Stagner. I'm the director of the All for One program. We operate before and after school. Pretty much the consistency of the program will stay intact. It will continue to operate at all of the schools before school, after school, during February break, April break, and during the summer as well. One of the changes or additions is we're going to have a before-school program at Riverside Middle School, and that will be for our 5th grade starting next year only, and that's because of licensing regulations. We potentially might add further grades beyond that first year, but for next year we are going to open that up for 5th grade before school. At the high school, we're going to continue to serve 9th to 12th graders, but for the most part, the program will stay intact and will operate before school, after school, just as we do now.
So what's really exciting is that this is not the last time you get to see us. If you are interested in further discussions, we are going to have an entire week where we're going to go school by school and answer questions, have full forums that you can ask questions. Something else that we're going to do is there's going to be a lot of student communication, parent communication coming from administrators, and then we'll be communicating with staff on all of that. Then what else we're going to do is we are going to have collaborative planning to meet the developmental needs. Those include transition meetings, those include parent meetings, and then that also includes teacher-to-teacher meetings where we're going to have PK and kinder teachers meeting together to really talk about how this transition is going to work developmentally. Our 2nd and 3rd grade teachers are going to be talking all the way up. So that way our students really know what they're walking into and we are prepared to welcome them with open arms. The different activities that you'll also be hearing about are our school site visits, where the school students get to go to the other sites, get to visit, get to experience a little bit about the school. We are going to have those transition meetings. with parents and students, and then the all-encompassing Step Up Day, which is very exciting. I've only heard amazing things about it. Big celebrations, and I'm excited.
Okay, so next steps, where we're going from here is Alina's talked a little bit about, and we've all talked a little bit about. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of development that's been going on since last August. That'll continue through next August when we open up. Again, there'll be more forums coming. You've heard that before, just a few minutes ago. And then the school communities will be working together to create this transition for the students. And a lot of conversations of administrators going down to talk to the students coming up to go talk to the staff and see the new buildings, and there's a lot of interaction that's being discussed to happen in both directions. And then, finally we've got those step-up days, and at the suggestion of one of our board members, I wasn't going to say that, but I'm going to put him on the spot, but I'm not going to say who it was. We are looking at having a celebration next year, first day of school, just before the first day of school. Come see the building. We'll have a family child breakfast, cookout, lunch, barbecue. We're still trying to plan those and work out those details. But we think it's a great way to invite those new kids in. There's going to be 2 new grades going into Riverside. There's going to be 2 new grades going into Union. So it's going to be an opportunity for us to really make it special for those kids that are transitioning. So we're all excited about it. If you couldn't tell by our presentation, we've done a lot of work in pulling this together. We think it's great for kids. We think it's great for the taxpayers. We think it's great for the community in general to create this synergy in the primary grades, in the elementary grades, and in the middle school grades. It is going to really improve our delivery of instruction, and we believe it's going to improve the outcome of those students as well. And we just want to finally thank everyone that has helped us within the buildings, outside the buildings, that has helped us to pull this together and to work on this, and who is going to continue to work on this. It's been a great collaboration so far, and this team works very well together. They're phenomenal. They push each other. They question each other. But at the end of the day, they come together to make a cohesive joint decision that we believe is best for all. So with that, we're going to open up for questions. Those that are here in the cafeteria, the easiest way is if you want to ask a question to come up to the mic. That's how we will recognize you. Martha, we're going to ask you to keep an eye on the TV land to see who is requesting questions there. Martha, can you see the mic here so you can kind of manage who goes next?
Not the mic, someone that takes presentations, or there you go. Now I can.
Okay. And I will, if you please, direct your questions to someone, whether it's the administration as a whole or David, because David's got all the answers, or to the board. Please let us know who you would like to answer, or everybody. We will do our best to pass the mics around and get to the answer you're looking for. Questions in the audience? Come on, we didn't do that good a job. Oh, please identify yourself. Oh, okay.
I'm for every week, for all of this right now. I have a few questions. One,
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt, Ray? Either the mic needs to be adjusted or maybe speak up into it because it's hard to hear out.
okay, my name is Ray. I have a few questions. One, should I ask them all at once, or should I ask them one at a time and let you answer? Do you have a preference?
I don't see a line of people behind you, so let's give it a shot until I see one form, or Martha tells me she's got a bunch of hands on TV.
Okay. Given the fact that after some rather in-depth research on that part, the trend at the moment and what is considered best practices is to actually be moving ninth graders down, because developmentally they are more like 8th graders than they are like 10th graders, rather than trying to move from the bottom upwards. Why has the decision been to ignore that research with this transition, especially when an alternative plan that could have moved the pre-K away and keep the 5th grade with the elementary school kids was offered to you by none other than the person speaking to you right now?
Anybody want to speak to that?
That was primarily to the board.
The board?
Yeah, I think some of the administrators were at the meeting when I mentioned it, but I addressed that alternative plan to the board, but I suppose the best practices aspect of it would be better addressed to the administration, so I guess it's a two-part.
Ray, I don't think I have all the answers, but one of the things after you did make that suggestion, when I went to work the next day, I walked through the halls and I thought about the building, and Elm Hill is bursting at the seams. And I thought if David and I tried to divide the existing K to 5 and add in a full grade of preschool, because right now we'll have 2 classrooms coming in, but each subsequent year we'll add another, so that'll be a full grade. I can't even imagine where I'd put them. And so I did think about it walking around the buildings, because on top of it, not only is the preschool coming with its own classrooms, state law requires it to come with its own special education team, because they have to be licensed entirely differently, and it's dual agency oversight. And so I did look around, and we just don't have that kind of space in the building. And I can't speak for David, but I'm pretty sure he's at max capacity too.
I can speak for David. Yeah, Ray, I hope I don't sound flippant at all in answering this, but you can find research on a lot of things out there, and there's so many different models, whether it's, Vermont, we have K-8 schools, we have K-2 schools, we have, for me, this is just me speaking, I think it's about how consistent you are in terms of your instructional delivery, how well your teachers collaborate, your teacher efficacy, and these are all things that we've talked about for years. And so I'm not one who's going to fall in the sword of a particular structure over another. I think you can find research on many different models out there. And to me, and again, this is just me, and I hope I don't sound flippant in responding to this. For me, it's not about this grade level here or that grade level here, or that. How good are your teachers? How well do they collaborate? These are things we haven't really talked about during this shift, and that's been disappointing for me. We've focused mainly on the structural components of it, and to me, that doesn't make a good system, and it's not about that for me. So that's where I'm at.
It seems like you made your opinion of the transition well enough.
Yeah, but I want to respond to what you just asked too.
Yes, I understand that part of the chain.
Anybody else?
I think that covered it.
I feel like I'm still very concerned because I still don't feel like the issue that I had originally raised regarding fifth graders not being developmentally ready has been addressed. I don't allow my fifth grader to hang out with seventh and eighth graders. And I don't know many parents who do, you know. And yeah, my children have older siblings and they socialize with them, but I don't let them socialize with them when they have their friends over. You know, I don't know many parents who would either. You know, it's just not a responsible position to put children in. And it's very concerning. And I have every faith in you and your administrators to handle the situation once it's happened. I just don't have faith in anyone to be able to keep things from happening. You know, yeah, so on that, I'm trying to remember what my questions were.
Well, you're thinking, Martha, do we have anybody online?
I do not see any hands at the moment.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, I just have one right now. Chris Farrell.
You could probably bring the PowerPoint down, as exciting as the question page is. And then you could see the people online. Just a humble suggestion.
Well, now you're really going to test me again.
Yep.
I didn't remember my question.
Go ahead. Who did you say, Chris was?
Chris Farrell.
Go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. You're muted if nobody's hearing you, Chris.
Chris, we see your hand up, but we can't hear your hand. It looks like he left to reconnect. Did you think of one yet, or does anybody else have a question?
I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
If this transition is so beneficial and so exciting, why wasn't a meeting like this done beforehand to actually ask parents whether they wanted it?
Assuming that was for the board.
I mean, I'll speak for myself. I don't think you can hold an informational meeting without a plan. You have to have a solid plan in place before you present it to the community. So until there was a well thought out transition plan of the administration, I don't think you can present something as a quandary of what if questions. Because we can be here all night and talk about what if without a plan. So from our perspective, the plan's in place. It's taken a long time to get here. If you heard, I got a warm fuzzy when Dave was talking about interacting with the students today, asking about the transition plan and T3s and what those mean with the students. I think engaging the students in the transition plan is a wonderful idea, but we're here to engage with the community. We're going to have open forums in each building moving forward. And the questions and responses are going to be taken into consideration. Every channel, every plan improves as it goes, right? So it's all about continuous improvement. Take the feedback and improve as we go.
I see two questions on, if you can just give me. Chris, did you figure out your technology?
I think the answer might be no. Nope.
Is our volume up?
Jess? You? Hi, I don't see whoever that is. I don't see your hand up. I see Jess Rivelow's hand up. you have a question? Yes?
I can't say you're on the phone. I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Jess.
Hi, is this Martha? That is not me talking.
I just want to know,
Martha?
if this is going to be recorded and if it's going to be online, because I can't get online and I just want to be able to know what's going on later.
Yes, it is being recorded.
Send you all my questions.
Yes, it is being recorded.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I've got a question about class size for second grade.
Yep.
My understanding is there are 5 classrooms at Elm Hill right now.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out how to use it now.
Martha, can you read that?
I'm trying to, hold on.
Yes, we currently 5 second grade class. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know them pretty well. There's currently 79, 80 first graders that will be moving into second grade next year. So those, we're looking at 4 class sizes of roughly 20. It'll be a little bit less than that, but roughly 20 grade, 20 class, grade 2.
I'm having a little trouble hearing. It might be my technology. Will we go from the 5 second grades to 4 second grades?
Yes, we'll go from 5 second grades at Elm to 4 at Union, but the current first grade population is roughly 80, 78 to 80. So there'll be 4 grades of 20 in the classroom. 4 classes of 20 in the second grade. Say that right? Right. Next one.
There was more just a follow-up that I think the problem is that even when you're improving on the plan, the question is whether or not you are improving on a plan that was a good one to begin with. It's already a plan that's cost us the best principal of Union Street that's been here since we lived here. And that total score since 2017. He's, I mean, this is already cost more than, I think we could afford. And I think it's going to end up costing more because I don't think he's going to be the last person to leave. And at some point, you have to do a cost-benefit analysis. And I know the question was asked at the last board meeting, how do we look our students in the face and say, oh, we changed our mind. I think our students respect us more if we admit a mistake and say that we need to do something different rather than continuing to insist on not being wrong rather than actually being right.
Any other questions, comments?
And Chris Farrell, were you able to get yourself back in?
I might give this one to you because you guys have a great answer. So with the school initiatives, as far as the state initiatives with consolidation, when we do this, and say Green Mountain gets shut down or Windsor gets shut down in a year or two, because our schools are in better shape, we have all the technology and everything to support the kids. What are we going to need to do then when we shift all these grades into the school? Like, are we going to have to do another transition? Are we going to have to open another school? Like, just looking at, seems as though they put out this a couple weeks before the vote. Are we looking at doing a big shift and changing everything right now? when the state's looking at what 5 districts, which we know that probably won't happen, but there will be some type of shift. What are we looking at capability-wise to accept those kids? And are we going to need to shift backwards in a couple of years to accommodate something like that?
So, my opinion, because I don't know what the state's going to do. I don't know what Green Mountain's going to do. I don't know what Bellas Falls is going to do. I don't know what Windsor's going to do. But I know there's going to be pressure on all of us to some degree or another. Facility standpoint, we still have capacity here at the high school. I am told by some, I have observed myself, that we could absorb some number. I'm not going to say which school or how many, because I just don't want to create that anxiety or environment out there in a different community. But we have capacity at the high school. Middle school will be pretty much at capacity. Union's going to be at capacity, and Elm's going to be at capacity. Springfield, in my opinion, is going to position itself in the best possible conversation with the state and our other neighboring districts to say, hey, we've done it. We are efficient. We can accept this number of people in grades 9 through 12. We're happy to help. The other thing this does that hasn't been talked about much is, and it's a little difficult, again, I'm going to be talking about another district, this time I will identify it as River Valley Tech. It basically frees up the 3rd floor of that building. Springfield owns it. There is a contract with the state of Vermont and RVTC to operate it like a condominium, if that's the best way to people to understand it. It's even a little more complicated than that. The state is currently talking about consolidating all of the tech centers into one statewide district. I don't know what that means to that building in Springfield, but what I do know is if we make this change, it's going to give us capacity on the 3rd floor that if the board, chooses, and we find that it is beneficial, we now have the real estate to bring some of those out-of-district kids back and have them in self-contained classrooms.
Then you look at like an 8th grade shift to high school or something like that.
No, I mean, I'm talking about out-of-district special ed students that has been talked about for years. That, you know, since I've been here, I have gone around and looked at 3 or 4, maybe 5 different buildings where we could bring them back into the district instead of paying $200,000 in tuition and, you know, $100,000 in transportation to send them somewhere. We would have the capacity. And when I looked at those buildings, it just wasn't feasible. It was cheaper for us to send them. But if we have real estate that is not being utilized, that doesn't theoretically cost us anything, then there's an opportunity to bring some of those kids back. It's a long answer to your question. I don't know if I truly answered it.
Well, I'm more so looking that if you've got to shift a bunch of kids into the district, not special ed. I understand what you're talking about there. I'm more so talking about, like previous conversation we had, is, you know, you've got Ludlow, Cavendish is still there, so Ludlow.
So if this District Q says, hey, Springfield, we'd love to send you 300 7th through 12th graders.
Exactly. How are you going to do it?
Again, we have capacity at the high school. We would have to then sit down again, okay, it all depends on numbers. If those 7th and 8th graders is total of 5, yeah, we can get them into the middle school. If they're 100, no. So maybe we do move 8th grade up there. So it's now 8 through 12.
No, that's what I was looking for.
You know-
The plan as far as if, with the state initiative as far as consolidating districts and shutting down schools, and that there'd be some type of a plan for those additional students.
Right. Well,
If you're positioning our school to be in the, one of those receiving schools possibly.
Rick, if I, and again, I'm no expert, right? But if I read some of the stuff right, and I've just barely skimmed it, right? It'll be the high schools where it looks like a lot of the pressure is, and tiny schools, right? So I think that's what Rick's talking about, is the ability to absorb tuition high school kids. I think there'll be less pressure on middle schools. They are talking about regional middle schools, and not pressure on elementaries to absorb from other towns. I could be totally wrong, but that's like, I skimmed the governor's slides, right?
Yeah.
And I looked a little bit at it, and I have a lot of work to do to get up to speed on the bigger implications, right? The 3-year timeline that he put out and all that stuff, but I'm kind of waiting for the committees to sort of send out information, which is what you're doing too. So I don't want to,
No,
right?
that's fine.
Because we're really projecting.
yeah, and I think to piggyback on Nate, the pressure at the elementary level is, I don't know, it's been a while since I looked at it, but at one point, 10 years ago, there was, I believe, 35 elementary schools of less than 100 throughout the state. And if I'm the governor, if I'm somebody in Montpelier, that's pretty valuable low-hanging fruit to me, because it's pretty expensive to run a building of 100 kids. And again, it's just purely speaking from the number standpoint. I'm not speaking from the education side.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and these guys can help me, I don't think there's many, if any, of those around here. So that would be the only pressure on our elementary is, per se, if Dallas Falls had a school
Well,
of,
you got Cavendish or Chester schools.
yeah, I don't know if
Cavendish and Lonely Elementary.
I don't know if Cavendish is close enough to come here, but that would be a pressure,
Yeah, because you got, one of those kids go to Chester.
but yeah, they could go into Chester.
We have some we do send, Miss Farnsworth goes to that fair where they, decide which school they are sending kids to. So we do actually go recruit there currently.
But I think we'll have capacity.
Okay.
And the majority of our capacity is here at the high school. My pleasure.
It looks like Chris may be able to.
Chris, are you there?
Can you hear it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, my wife has a question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brenda. I am Chris's wife. I have an active 4-year-old in the background, so apologies for any ear noises. So I'm actually pretty excited about the pre-K, joining kindergarten and first grade. I think it's a really great opportunity for them. I am looking into the future, and I do have concerns with eventually my 5th grader going into the middle school, because there's a very big difference in terms of growth, puberty, hormones, muscle mass, where a 5th grader is at versus, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. So has any thought or discussion been given as what we're going to do in terms of safety of the 5th graders in this grade?
I have difficulty hearing the tail end of that. Could you repeat it, please?
Got it.
So I don't know where I left off, but, a 5th grader who's like 10 or 11 is not necessarily, very tall, has a lot of muscle mass due to, not going to puberty. They're in a different place with growth and hormones. So how will their safety be, protected with kids who are like 13 and 14, possibly 15, that are much bigger, that are going through puberty, their brains, like they are on sort of different, maturity levels. So my concern is safety. So have this thought given how to ensure safety of the fifth graders with, really kids that are like starting puberty or kind of through it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, great, thank you. So I think the answer is yes. So that was one of the things that I looked with at Kids Today is I'd met with staff a while ago, looked at different floor plans, right? And thinking about how to position the fifth graders, right? So that they had more space, right? That and so where we sort of landed as a staff is our recommendation that we're working on. And actually, I think the newsletter just went out that has actually pictures of the map, which is putting the fifth grade in the downstairs wing, and 7, 8 are upstairs in the upstairs wing. It used to be what we call our sixth grade wing, right? And so we will have fifth grade will be down there, and we'll have some sixth grade classrooms down there. 2 sixth grade classrooms up, sharing one stairwell. The other thing, right, is thinking about being intentional when we have, like I talked about T3, right? Being very intentional about when you have classes that are fifth grade, right? And structures that support that, and being intentional when you have opportunities for the whole school community to be together, right? So we have put a lot of thought into that. And thought about different structures and places in the building to help facilitate that. I'm not sure if that answered your question exactly, but those are the pieces that we've been really thinking through.
Okay. Will there be? I think there will be. My understanding that. If future questions arise, how will they be addressed? The forums, the open houses?
Yep. So, yeah, so we are doing, right, we have I don't have the date in my head, the 25th maybe. We'll have a Riverside specific meeting at Riverside. And then I am sharing out this newsletter to really my target audience are parents who are going to be directly impacted in the shift, so that they can see some of the specifics that you're asking about. And I will get Rick to put it on his fancy website out so everyone can see it. So that's sort of
a sarcastic statement.
Rick's our tech guy. So the parents can see that, and that next forum is again, the intention is to look deep into Riverside, right? Like, how will kids' schedules look? Hopefully by then I'll be able to say, here's who their teachers will be. I think we're on track to be able to say that. What will those classes look like? How will kids move throughout the building? These are the, Ms. Farnsworth has been working with Ms. Rounds over at Union around transition plans, and got feedback from the 6th grade today around things that really worked for them, things that, suggestions they had when they were coming over to make them a little less anxious, a little less nervous, as kids are in any transition. And so we're going to take that feedback we got today. We're going to take feedback from that forum on the 25th and look at where we need to kind of tweak and adjust as we move on.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking my question.
Yep.
I know one of the slides also had mentioned site visits to other schools that have these grades already.
Yes. Yes, we are. I've started communicating with a couple principals around looking at that. I know I've talked to, Ray has been worried about stuff. I already reached out to Ray. And I would like to send some staff and some parents just to look at models. And there's lots of ways the schools do it all over the state. right? With different degrees of interaction between kids of different ages, right? And it's just about being thoughtful that it matches our community, and understanding the uniqueness of our community. And I know Matt has been kind of thinking through kind of that, making sure the model matches the community is different than maybe you'd see a model, like if you went to, I don't know, CVU, it might be a different model than you would build, Williston area, it would be a different model than you would build here, just based on what our students' needs are and our community kind of values. So we're trying to think through that and kind of getting people out of our little bubble, right, which is also important.
Hi, everybody. Have a great day. I've been attending some board meetings online, and I've heard the discussion that we are already, having a strain on our existing teachers, having to handle larger classroom sizes, and we're at a huge deficit of paraeducators already for a number of our schools, with very little chance of being able to hire qualified folks because we're just not competitive. And I look at that, compare that to this existing transition plan, where we are asking our fifth graders to move up and have to deal with a lot of really difficult emotional and social maturity issues that they haven't faced in full. I'm also looking at the current fifth and fourth graders who were the COVID generation who spent a year to a year and a half being completely remote and are still behind socially and being able to express themselves and integrate in classrooms. Now we're asking them to have a double burden of moving up without the support systems in place at Riverside and Union to be able to absorb a lot of the stressful, emotional things that these kids are going to have to be dealing with. If you are not able to solve by hiring more teachers to help these kids along, how does this transition plan to deal with the emotional issues that result, which is also going to impact behaviorally these kids and disrupt classrooms? And that question is open to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak just through the structures that we've planned. I mean, that's been the conversation, that I've had with the budget committee is around, right? We built a plan with the greatest probability of success. So we have thought through, right, in the budget, right, there, one is looking at, right, we asked district educators around the shift, where would you like to be, right? And I hope our intention is by those building meetings to be able to show, right, who are these people who are going to be here supporting your kids, right? Because I think that's, to me, is important to, like, put a face, right? And know where are you actually going to be hiring, right? Where do you already know, because you have people who have said, hey, I want to step into that role. Because I think that's a driver to the unknown that you're really asking around. Because you want to know what counselors coming with my kids, right? Do they know them? What are the fifth grade teachers going to step up? Do my kids know them, right? Because that makes a huge difference, right? If they're known faces, and thinking through if you have enough support. Hiring is always a problem. Absolutely is. And I'm hoping the board is tackling the competitiveness in a different way. No pressure. But you're right. Hiring is a problem. It has been a problem, and especially around support staff. And that will be one of those key factors that has to be in place for us to get to that point where we're feeling like that greatest probability of success, right? We have to have the supports that we've planned for in place. That's absolutely true. And part of that's going to come out of this conversation with staff when they put their names in, and part of it is going to come out of early hiring season, right? And our highest probability of getting those people is be able to into some of these roles is be able to get the postings out early, right? Which is one of the, and I think Matt has talked about, right, the risk of the timing with the budget, right? In that, right, if you're trying to hire and bring people in, right, while other districts, I think we'll see, will be cutting back. So there may or may not be some more available workforce. If we're in budget trouble, it makes it much harder to get to a point where we're able to fill those positions, right? If we have a past budget, it's a lot easier to try to be strategic in filling those positions, because that's what I call prime hiring season, which is actually just like everything else seems to getting early, right? People are tapping a month early. If any of you tap maple trees, everything's getting a little earlier, and so it actually prime hiring season starts a little before the budget, which is kind of backwards. But you're right, staffing, at least, and I can only speak for a Riverside window, staffing is going to be really, really important, because it will be harder, right, if we don't have those key positions filled. Absolutely.
I'm not just worried about hiring, I think a lot of it's retention too.
Yep.
Not to throw any teachers under the bus, but I've heard about loads of teachers that are concerned about moving to different buildings, or maybe being asked to deal with a classroom that's not the primary age that they went to school to focus on. And, people are concerned.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily a hiring thing, that's impacted by the budget, that's keeping the people who know our kids, who are comfortable with
Yep, and I do hope, right, that those answers, again, at least for Riverside, we'll be able to have that answer at that Riverside meeting, because that's really important, right? If I was a parent, that'd be incredibly important. What's the face going to be with my kid, right? What are the spots that you need to try to hire? I think that's really important. I 100% agree with you. And retention is a huge piece of that, right?
So I'll just piggyback on that for a minute, and the board can fire me when I'm done, but this process actually gives them, as I mentioned before, financial resources to help address those issues. By creating the efficiencies through the transition, as well as the energy efficiencies that we've created, is making available more resources. And the board has charged me with trying to figure out a way to attract and retain talent. And that's one of the best ways that we can do it, is by generating cash per se without having to tax the taxpayers too much. So I would argue that this actually helps alleviate the concerns that you had. Just let me make sure there's nobody online. Okay, I don't see you. Go ahead.
The problem is that many of the currently open para positions that we've had have been open for years and gone unfilled. So even if we create into the budget, I'm speaking to someone who's on the budget advisory committee, positions to try and support the transition, for the wildly needed, supports at, Union Street, for instance, we still have to fill those positions, and we haven't been able to do it for years. So we can sit there and say that we're writing into the budget all of the supports that Dave's people are going to need, all we want to. It's just smoke and mirrors, because there's nobody there to fill those positions. Those people that are working their hind ends off every day to educate our children are still going to be left with no support. And you come up with a plan that you think gives the best, percentage chance of for success. We sure Leonidas and the 300 Spartans did the same thing. They were still win and fail. Sorry. I love you guys. But, you're in a bad position. And I think you'll do the best you can. I really do. I have every faith in that. But it's nuts.
Any other questions?
sessions planned for each school building, where we hope we'll get further attendance, as well as interacting with more families at those sessions. And I'm assuming each building will have newsletters and calls to go out to families about attendance, and as Dan said, the plans are evolving, and we hope to be able to put faces to placements for next year.
Help me out, that's the week after February break, right?
That's correct.
I don't know exactly which night each building's on, but there's 3 nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The week following vacation week, we'll be having those school-level forums, informational sessions. So we would encourage anyone and everyone to attend those as well.
Thank you, everybody who came. Thank you for all the questions, and look forward to